From years of anxiety to warrior and mentor, Bradley Robinson created the Anxiety Project to help you end your anxiety naturally. Let's mold the new you and let's end anxiety together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anxiety Project podcast, episode 337, where I speak with Dr. Kate Lund. She is great. I had a wonderful conversation with her. We talked about her new book, Step Away, The Keys to Resilient Parenting, but more importantly, building resilience, how to go through challenge and persevere and be the best possible you that you can become. She's a clinical psychologist of 15 years, and she's a TEDx speaker. And yeah, we dive into really important strategies on how to build this strong, independent person that's willing to go into the dragon's lair, to go into the unknown and face anxiety. So we talk about facing anxiety, I talk about also facing panic attacks in this episode, agoraphobia. She gives us an incredible strategy to do just 5 minutes to calm down, to reduce the stress, and well, to better our day. If you do this every day, it'll better your life. Now, she also mentioned that she struggled with hydrocephalus. Now, it took the ordinary out of her childhood, to say the least, and she struggled with that, and that later turned into her life's calling, her true calling. And now she's helping others who are troubled and who reach a dead end, who are unable to, get to that next stage, and she coaches and guides her clients and the people that listen to her podcast overcome, right? Those challenges and debilitating anxiety. So this is a really great episode. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm sure you will. And remember to share this with somebody who may be suffering, because it could change their life. So here we go. Dr. Kate Lund. Dr. Kate Lund, thank you so much for coming on to the Anxiety Project podcast. And for everyone listening right now, can you please give everyone a brief background of what it is that you do, how you got into your certain field, and why?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you, Brad, for having me. I really appreciate it. This is really fun. I'm glad to be here. Um, so I'm a clinical psychologist. I've been a clinical psychologist for over 20 years, and I work primarily with parents. I work with lots of athletes, focused on building resilience and optimizing within their own unique context, whatever that context looks like for them, so they can be at their best out there in the world. Uh, so that's sort of the big picture of what I do. And I got into it, I really believe that I got into it based on my own early experiences in childhood. Um, Diagnosed with hydrocephalus when I was about 4, which is a medical condition where the cerebral spinal fluid doesn't circulate as it should. And so lots of time in the hospital, in and out of the hospital, you know, looking different than the other kids, all of that, and really needed to be resilient in those times and figure out how to focus on what I could do as opposed to what I couldn't do. And had a lot of great support over the years. And I was really lucky that I had parents, teachers, parents of friends, even friends helping me to do just that, focus on what I could do as opposed to what I couldn't do, and helping me to optimize within my own unique context. So I think that's where my passion for this type of work began, and kind of serves as a placeholder in my mind for why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Interesting. So during that difficult time, what was it that your parents or the people around you that were inspiring you, what were they saying? What was happening that, shifted that identity of like being that victim to overcoming that very difficult time?
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was really, not one specific thing that they said, but more of how they led by example, by not focusing on mm, the condition unless it was necessary, unless there was a time when my shunt, which is the thing that controls hydrocephalus, broke and needed to be surgically repaired, that sort of thing. Um, when the shunt was working, they treated me like a normal kid. I had my responsibilities, my things that I had to do around the house, my expectations in school. And also beyond that, really helping me to see from an early age, where were my strengths? What were my interests, passions, that sort of thing. And then, one thing that was really important was that I couldn't do contact sports because I couldn't be in a position where I would get hit in the head. So I became a tennis player. And that was a big piece of my identity. I was pretty good at it, but there was also a lot of opportunity and support in that domain. And that became really important for me in believing, in what I could do as opposed to what I couldn't do. And that
Mhm.
sort of kind of translated across domains, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is a huge thing for me. Um, when I'm doing the podcast or when I'm coaching somebody, I have to
Mhm.
constantly bring myself back to that beginning stage of the change that I was going through. Because when I was in my late 20s, I was going through this severe anxiety disorder where
Mhm.
everything in my life was not working at all. And it's like a mountain, to climb where you're thinking, well, how am I supposed to completely shift my identity? All the negative beliefs, all the habits that were playing out. And I actually very much cherish that starting point. I always reflect on like where I was. It's humbling
Mhm.
because that was when the biggest changes happened. And I'm connecting with your story. I think it's through your actions, through what you're willing to do, the bar that you're willing to set. A lot of
Mhm.
people are like, I can't get there, but you're seeing the outer onion. You're seeing the
It-
very outer layer. You got to start from that, the very first thing that you can manage. That's your dragon. Don't compare yourself to others, but it's like that little step, right?
Yes, to
So
not be
important.
afraid to take that first step forward
Yeah.
and to not be afraid to have it not work out the first time and kind of figure out how to circumvent that and um, move forward from a slightly different angle, perhaps.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you seeing results through your actions? Like at that starting point, you were saying, going through that difficult time, you were, um, building an identity through what you were doing, and then you were eventually like seeing yourself differently or feeling confident over time.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think that, this started when I was quite young. So
Mm,
it took a while for it all to kind of sink in, so to speak. But I really do believe that those early years set the foundation for understanding and actually like what it felt like, what it meant to move through and beyond challenge. And
mhm.
I think I also learned early that, I had to work harder to achieve the same results but over time, I continued to work harder and then my results kind of incrementally went up because, maybe I was in a different place and
Mhm.
the struggle wasn't as big, but I was still working harder, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, working. What were you doing specifically?
Well, I would take a lot of time on my schoolwork.
Mm,
I would practice harder on the tennis court.
mhm,
I think I learned because of the moments where I couldn't be out there playing, if I was having like a medical episode or something like that. Um, I really learned to cherish that time when I could be playing from the inside out. And so I think that those are kind of the two main places where I saw it playing out or see it from a, hindsight view now
mhm.
playing out. I was very, very focused on my schoolwork and there were some academic challenges early on as a result of all of the missed school and stuff, but I figured out how to circumvent those by putting in extra time, and the
Yeah.
same thing applied to the tennis court for sure.
Yeah, that's a huge thing for me, and a lot of people need to know that your bar is your bar and don't compare it to, like I was saying earlier, somebody else's.
Right.
You might have to study 5 times harder than that other person in class who just reads it once and
Right.
gets it. And that's like my wife. Like she will read something once and it's like it'll come to her where I have to read it 5, 10 times. Right? Like I'll
Hmm.
have to read a page of a book maybe 2 times for me to understand things when it's for her. So that's just the reality of things. And you have to understand like what is your level, where are you, what do you need to do, and it's okay that you're on that level. You just got to work a little bit harder, but the rewards are going to be great.
Precisely. Yes, that summarizes exactly what my experience was in those early years for sure.
Mm,
And then the hard work continued, and so
mm.
that was actually a really good thing for me, a positive for sure.
Right, right. And that's how you would define resilience, right? Pursuing it, like constant persistence. What would be your definition?
Yeah, definitely. So oftentimes we're thinking of resilience as this, bouncing back from a challenge when it comes up, but really
Right,
I'm
right.
thinking about it more deeply than that. It's more of a integrated mindset or lifestyle
Mm,
that we're helping folks to develop within their own context. So, what do they need to be at their best? And so, what I needed was to work harder, to give it more time, and to be okay with that. And, that's kind of it starts with awareness of what you need to be at your best and what are the tools and strategies that you need to integrate into your own life and context. They're going to help you get there. So it's kind
mm.
of a lifestyle, a mindset integrated as opposed to just like a singular event of bouncing back from a challenge.
Right. That's it. That's very interesting. So when you're coaching somebody, when you have a client, what's this process like? Are they at a point, well, they must be at a point where they're like seeing the roadblocks, they're not getting the results, they're feeling low confidence. What's going on? What's your frame? How do you approach someone like that?
Yeah, that's such a good question, right? And so it really begins with understanding who that person is and
Yeah.
really trying to connect with them on a human level, understanding their experiences, kind of where the challenges, where the blocks have been, but really even beyond that, understanding, what are their hobbies? What do they like to do? What is their history been like? That kind of thing, to really have an understanding of who they are outside of the scope of the challenges that they're having, and then trying to understand the challenges, what those challenges are, how they're being held back, that sort of thing, to create a foundation for the work. And then the first thing I tend to start with folks is helping them to find a way to quiet their mind so that they're starting with a level baseline in terms of their stress response
Hmm.
so that they can then kind of ride the challenges more like a wave. Because if folks are starting up here and they hit a stressor, boom, and they're going to shut down maybe at that point. So I want to avoid that. And so we find that helping them create that modulated stress response as a baseline is a really important first step. So that's always how I go about kind of connecting with and starting work with clients.
So that starting point, it can be like what's the next step that you can do, or what's the next strategy that you can implement that's doable, that's not too high on the hierarchy of like the success rung, right?
Well,
Is that
so
what
the
you're talking about?
modulating of the stress response, we're really
Mm,
trying to, quiet their mind so
mm,
that folks aren't starting here
right.
as a stress, at a baseline level of stress
Mm,
so that they'll shut down when the stressor hits.
mm,
We want them to be in a modulated, even space. So
right.
this is more like managing your stress response, managing how you're going to respond to a stressor when it hits. So
Oh,
one
interesting.
technique that I like to teach is called the relaxation response,
Mm,
which was a technique developed by a physician in Boston back in the late 70s before mindfulness and stress reduction stuff was a thing,
Oh yeah, and now it's
became
huge.
so well known, cornerstone of the Mass General Hospital stress reduction mind body program. And it's called the relaxation response. And it was developed by that physician, Herbert Benson. And basically, it's super simple. It's like a mini meditation. You come up with a word or a phrase that you find soothing in some way, and you just breathe. And over time, really helps your baseline kind of level of stress, your response to stressors come to a very even space. And then we can start working on, what are the things that are hard? What would the best next step for you be? We can start creating the hierarchy from there once that baseline is established.
That's very interesting. That's something I do with my clients as well when it comes to them confronting, say, like agoraphobia, where they're afraid of the elevator or a tight space where their two biggest fears would pop up: fear of social judgment. Oh no, I'm
Hmm.
going to die here, but while I die, I'm going to make a fool out of myself while I do it. Right. So
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
mortality and social judgment come up. And then
yeah.
what I would do is I'd get them to relax, like what you're talking about, try and get the stress under control. But when they get into a meditative state, I'll use the visualization exercises as well,
Hmm.
get them
Hmm.
to imagine like the next step in approaching the thing that they fear. So I really connect with what you're saying. This is something I was doing before I, like you say it, you know, perfectly. But back then I was practicing it and I didn't even know what I was doing, right? Like I was like, is this okay? Like I was meditating, but I
Hmm.
was like, oh my mind was racing and I wasn't using the mantra like you were saying, the what would a typical mantra be in that session? The
Well,
one
it
word.
it you want folks to come up with a word or a phrase that they find soothing within themselves, right?
Right.
So could be anything from, sometimes folks will pick their favorite color, or sometimes folks will, pick and visualize themselves on a beach,
Hmm.
or sometimes it'll be blue water. Uh, can really be across the spectrum of, we want it to be simple,
Hmm.
accessible, don't want it to be too complicated, just so that it can be right there. But it has to be something that resonates with um, the person.
And how long would that typically go on for?
Well, it can be done in very short spurts. I typically have folks start for 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening to sort of bookend the day
Mm.
so that they can start to feel what those modulated, times feel like. And then uh, over time and with practice, that stress modulated state becomes more of their baseline. But the cool thing is, if there are moments that are going to be particularly stressful during the day, like maybe you're going into a crazy meeting at work, or a high school student going into a test, or a game that's generating anxiety, they can practice this in their mind for 2, 3 minutes at a time before moving into that stressful space. And
Mhm.
that is very effective as well. So, it really ranges in terms of practice and time.
Mhm.
But the key is it does take consistent practice, consistent engagement in the practice
Mhm.
for the results to happen.
Mhm. Mhm. No, I love that. What are some of the other strategies that you do with your clients to help them build up this resilience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, some of the go tos are, making sure that folks have um, a level of social support in place. Um, whether that means calling a friend once a week, or grabbing a coffee with a friend on a Sunday morning. whether that means joining an online group to connect with other people with like-minded interests. So social support is very important to have as part of the foundation as we're building this resilient sort of lifestyle slash mindset. Physical activity of some sort is really big, because we know the power of fresh air, exercise on helping folks manage their mood state, manage baseline levels of anxiety, that sort of thing. So, always within the context of what someone's able to do, we have some sort of movement involved.
Mhm.
Um, Also, hobbies are very, very powerful. Having folks engage in some sort of a creative outlet is often very, very helpful according to what they like. It might be reading a mystery novel, it might be, learning to paint or draw, it might be, something else like active, a sport that they've wanted to try. I've got someone now who's learning pickleball and
Nice.
integrating that into their um, toolbox of strategies.
Mhm.
And it's very, very fun and effective to watch that for them evolve.
Mhm.
Um, and another one, music. Music can be very powerful. Um, so there's a whole lot of things that we work with folks on integrating, but it all comes down to helping them to understand and become aware of what do they need to be at their best and what do they need to move through and beyond the challenges that they're inevitably going to face every day. So
Mhm.
definitely no one size fits all.
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
it's based on what's going to work for the person and their own awareness of what those things are.
Yeah, that's really important. I think people just need a frame,
Hmm.
and then because I heard a psychologist talk about that where he was like, there's Jungian psychology, and then there's CBT, and then there's NLP, and then there's Freudian, and it's like, yeah, there's all of these things. Is there a right and wrong one? Not necessarily. A lot of people just need a frame and a structure to follow. And then after they follow that for a period of time, then they'll branch out and incorporate other different aspects of maybe Jungian or like CBT and all these different elements. So I think it's just important for people to know that, right? Like when you're dealing with your clients, you get them to follow something, a
Hmm.
structure,
Right.
and
Yeah, like a
and boy,
structure,
people
exactly.
love
And
that, right?
yeah, yeah, the structure is really important, sort of
Yeah.
operating within a framework with the understanding that there's no one size fits all
Yeah.
and there's flexibility within the framework.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 I first started off with CBT,
Mhm.
just and that was really useful because it's similar to what you're talking about where you have a game plan, you're
Mhm.
implementing habits, changing that first rather than just changing your thought patterns. A lot of the time that doesn't work because I tried it for a while where I'd get up in the morning, try to do the affirmations, but if I'm not putting in that work of like showing myself that I can achieve certain levels, whether it's exercise, pushing the boundaries of that anxiety when I'm in a very anxious situation and
Mhm.
overcoming that, that's when I saw the real change happen. It wasn't like with the affirmations, even though I'm not against it. I'm not. Sometimes it's good to get the other part of the voice working, right? It's
Mhm.
like the other voice that is there's that voice that's saying that's overly critical, the catastrophizing, and then it's
Mm.
also good to get that other voice in there that's saying, wait a minute, you're just seeing things from that negative side, what about the other side? So I'm not against that either, but I love what you're talking about when it's like putting in the habits, putting in the exercise, the changing of the routine, and I think that's more effective. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And then the addressing the negative self-talk and all of those things are very important as
Yeah.
well. And you know, in terms of that, because as humans we're kind of wired to go to the negative, like all of the would
Yeah.
haves, could have, should haves, and all of that. But we really want to help neutralize that lens. And
Mhm.
so I'll typically have folks practice what we call the daily wins exercise,
Nice.
um, either at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, like jotting down 2 to 3, 4 things that went well on a given day, as opposed to just focusing on the things that didn't go well. And so I find that that's a powerful add to the whole mix and helps to neutralize that kind of negative lens, the negative self-talk that can so often come up for us.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. That was another game changer was the journaling, right? And
Yes.
and it's it's really easy. I talk about this all the time on the show. You just need a structure on how to journal, and then
Hmm.
you like people will love it. A lot of people are like, I don't know what to write, and it's like, no, 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 you have to have certain questions, and that's it. Like have 3 or 4 questions every day that you answer. Like you said, what were the wins today? What am I grateful for? you know
Hmm.
what do I need to improve on? Like just very basic things. Answer them 5-10 minutes, and then you can do that in the morning and night, and it's so effective. It's
Yes,
incredible.
absolutely. So good. And the journaling piece, it's so good because it helps you to once again understand yourself more fully, gain that awareness of what you need to be at your best, and then helps you figure out, like, by building a map of how to get there, you know?
Yeah.
And I also believe that journaling so powerful because not only does it help us understand ourselves more readily, helps us to understand others and how we're engaging with others
Mm.
in a more full way, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So my routine for the longest time was I'd wake up, I'd immediately make my bed because I would never do that before.
Mhm.
When I was anxious and like, I was just like, I would wake up at certain periods of the day, like, 10 and 9, and that was bad. I had to set a time, get up
Mhm.
6 o'clock every day, even if I don't like it. Doesn't matter what time I even go to bed. Get up
Mhm.
at the same time, make the bed, go and meditate for 10, journal for 5, stretch for 10, and then take a cold shower and go go on with the day.
Yeah.
So I did that for many years, and I loved it because I had
Mhm.
no structure in my life. A lot of people I see, they're falling into that same hole, I would say, of
Mhm.
anxiety. The definition of anxiety is too many pathways in front of you. A lot of
Right.
people don't wake up and they don't have a game plan. It's
Mhm.
like now I think of me not doing that, and it's horrifying. It's like I couldn't
Right.
imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, to have too many options, too many things in front of you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. And having kind of a structured morning routine is so, so powerful. And yeah, I think that's another really important piece to help people build. And I love how it kind of sounds like it was really transformative for you
Yeah.
in terms of your own experience. And is it something that you're still practicing in somewhat of the same way, like regularly?
Yes. Yes, yes. I now have a 15-month-old. So that changed my everything. That
Yes.
disrupted my routine quite a bit in the morning.
Hmm.
But the one thing I am proud to say is I would still get up at 5 anyways, no matter
Hmm.
what. So um, even though he would be crying all night, no sleep, doesn't matter. I'd get up at 5, and I'll find a way to take a nap during the day, right? And sometimes I couldn't even do that. So I really, I think the top of my list would be the same time, waking up at the
Hmm.
same time. That's probably my number one thing. If I can
Yeah.
do that, that's a big win. Um, so I shifted, like currently right now, it's wake up at 5. I'd go to the gym right away. So I've
Mm-hmm.
been doing that as my morning routine. Go to the gym. I'll come back, and I'm trying not to have any screen time until noon. So when I get back, I'll take the shower. I'll do things around the kitchen. Be with him.
Mm-hmm.
Feed him breakfast, and have no screens. It will just be that that um, that mindfulness in the morning. So that's
Mm-hmm.
my routine right now. So I think it's really well. I had to choose a Kate. What like because of him now, I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that time to like do all of that stuff I used to do.
Right.
Now I'm like, okay, I have to pick one thing that I really need, and I chose exercise.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
need that, and that more than anything else. And I'll do the meditation at night before
Okay.
bed. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And so I love what you're saying there because you gave yourself space for flexibility
Yeah.
within the context of your life as it is now, with the baby and everything. And
Yeah.
I bet the 15-month-old boy keeps you on your toes, huh?
Oh, yes. Yes. He's at that point where he's just, you put him down for a minute and he takes off, right? He's
Yeah.
just if it feels like a month ago he was barely walking, and now, he's
Mhm.
taken off. So
Now he's running. Yeah.
yeah, it's a trip. What a ride. And it's my first too. So
Oh
it's,
boy. Yeah.
yeah.
I remember those days. I have 18-year-old twin boys. And
Oh, no
so
way.
that was a while
Oh,
ago for me when they were 15 months, but yeah, it's going to be a journey for you. It'll be fun. It'll be
yeah.
great.
So that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. You have this new book coming out. I'm like, oh, I want to talk to, and it's about children. And I was right.
Yeah, yeah,
What's it
it
called?
is. It's so my new book is called Step Away: The Keys to Resilient Parenting. And so it is certainly about kids, lots of case studies about kids as
Nice.
parents are navigating the journey with their kids. But the core of the book is actually how are we as parents caring for ourselves in an optimized way so that we can, parent at the height of what's possible.
Mhm.
And then how can we, as we're doing that, be modeling or helping our kids to adopt some of that same sort of core principles of a resilient lifestyle slash mindset.
Mhm.
um, so absolutely, the book is built around, my experience as a mom, my experience as a psychologist for 20 plus years, and my experience a little bit at the beginning of being a kid with, a complex medical situation, and
Mhm.
sort of integrating those lenses into kind of the model of an optimized parent.
Yes,
Um,
I have to
so
check that out. When does it come out?
well, so we're in soft launch right now,
Ooh.
um, which means that it's up on Amazon in ebook form, and we'll be launching officially the first week of October.
Oh, very soon. That's
So,
exciting.
yes, very, very soon.
What else do
Yes.
you talk about in the book?
Well, a lot of the book is centered around some of these strategies that we talked about at the beginning,
Mm.
some of those strategies, those pillars that we can put in place to optimize our well being, in essence,
Mhm.
so that then we can start developing this resilient mindset, ways to navigate through and beyond challenges that are inevitably going to come up. Also, talk a bit more than a bit about emotional intelligence and integrating that into our outlook, our lens as parents, sort of understanding how our um, way of being, behavior, what we're bringing to the table impacts others, impacts our kids, and vice versa. And in that, helping our kids develop that same lens. How is their way of being out in the world impacting others around them in the classroom, in sports, and otherwise? So, a fair amount of attention is on that. Each of the main portions of the book is then illustrated by case studies, folks who I've worked with, but they're composite case studies. So no one story is written in its entirety. It's more like bits and pieces of variety of different stories are created, are brought together to create the story so that identity is protected, that sort of thing. Um, so the book is meant to be very accessible, a quick read, but really a manual that parents can use to see themselves within this context, understand themselves better, and then put real actionable tools into place to optimize themselves as parents and as people.
I'm excited about this because there's always, something I'm catching myself doing when I'm
Mhm.
around him. And I always think, well, be that role model, be patient. One of the biggest things I've been struggling with is patience,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Sometimes mom has to take him away because like I'm not being patient. I'm just like, you know, just at the height of, you know, my, frustration. And that's the biggest thing for me because I score highly in trait neuroticism,
Mm-hmm.
so it's difficult and, I'm high in negative emotion.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I have to like we were talking about earlier. I have to work a little bit harder than
mm-hmm.
somebody who isn't high in that kind of trait, right? Like I
Right.
gotta, make sure I meditate. I gotta make sure I have
Yes.
space and I can calm down. And so I have to like I can see that I cherish the routines a lot more now,
Hmm.
even.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say, like that management of your stress response
Yeah.
as sort of an integrated baseline is so important. And it sounds like that's exactly, what you're focused on, and, that ability to know when maybe you're getting a little bit more escalated than you want to, and
Yeah.
taking that conscious step back, that intentional step back to create space is so, so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that going forward, I have to make sure I'm not watching too many things like
Mm,
YouTube. I get caught up in a lot of stuff like that. Over the
mm.
last couple of years, I got caught up in a lot of the political sphere. I had to get out of it because
Yeah.
it's just too stressful in that space. So,
Hmm.
I mean, God bless those people who can do that every day and talk about politics but for me, it's like that's not my space. And
Right.
I
And
need to get
that's
out. So
so important to
yeah.
know that about yourself and
Yep.
then take an intentional step away from that space.
Yep.
Yeah, so, so
Yeah.
important.
Because a lot of people, yeah, like, but there's a part of me that's like, no, you need to know what's going on in the world. And I'm like, I know, like, if I can't take care of my immediate surroundings, it's not like
Hmm.
I'm going to go out and change the world. You start with your world, right? A lot of
Right.
people can't take care of their the state of their apartment. Like that's the one thing that I talk about with my clients is like, what's the thing that you can do right now that's immediate that you know
Mhm.
that you should be doing, but you just don't get around to doing. It's like, oh yeah, there's that desk with all that pile of papers there, and there's the unvacuumed part of that room, and then there's the state of my attic, and there's the hoard of things in there. It's like, well, take care of that first before you go out and criticize the world and
Yeah.
trying to. So, Kate, that was the big thing for me. Like when I was changing back in my late 20s because I was
Hmm.
suffering so badly, I was
Hmm.
going out and cleaning my car. I was going
Hmm.
into my room, cleaning that. I was
Hmm.
selling stuff that I didn't need anymore.
Hmm.
And the minimization changed so much of my mental health.
Yes. And that is such a great point because, yeah, minimizing the clutter, minimizing that chaos around us is so important and
Absolutely.
really cuts back on, because chaos, sort of clutter, too many options, like you said, really can be a fundamental driver of anxiety, overwhelm, burnout, all of it. So, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. I heard a psychologist say that once, where if you give a child more than three options to choose from, like what to wear, they don't
Hmm.
like it. So it's like give
Yeah.
them two or three options and
Hmm.
they'll pick something, and that'll be
Yeah.
they'll like that. They don't want you to open up the closet and see a whole wardrobe. It's like pick something for school. It's like, they we like it the same way. We just want the few things around us. So because when you walk into a room and there, this, like there's a vacuum that you have to step over, there's a
Yeah.
sock drawer that's messy, your brain goes obstacle, obstacle,
Hmm.
obstacle. When you have to use up excess brain power to find the thing that can move you in your goal directed behavior, and
Hmm.
it's you don't like it. So when you clean up everything, it's like less obstacles. It's easier to get to where you need to go. That's it.
Exactly. Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yes, absolutely. It's such a good point.
Yeah.
And having, you know, a limited number of focuses sort of across the domains of your life is very powerful as well.
Absolutely.
Um, and it's something that, isn't necessarily easy for all of us. I mean, I know for myself, I sometimes have way too many projects going at the same time, or things, pies in the air, as I call it.
Hmm.
And I find that when I intentionally focus in, that makes things just that much smoother. And I think that's an important principle for all of us to be integrating as we are developing and building that resilient lifestyle, mindset, etc.
Hmm. Can you go over a little bit about your day and what you value and how you structure your day?
Sure. Yeah. So I am also up early. That's very important to me. And I find that when I don't get up early on that rare day, it's harder to get moving in a
Oh
intentional
yeah.
trajectory.
Oh yeah.
Um, I have two dogs. So those dogs, those Wally and Squirt, are my main focus
I love
early in the
that.
morning. I get up with them and, feed them breakfast. And then I generally will, at that point, check email, kind of make sure there's nothing pressing to address there. And then I hit the Peloton and
Yep.
do a workout, and then come back up, get ready for the day, and then come down to my office and, have probably 4 hours of clients. Or if it's a writing day, I'll do 4 hours of that. If it's a podcasting day, generally writing and podcasting is on the same day. And so I'll split it
Oh.
up that way. Um, Try to be done with work around 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
At that point, it's family time, dinner time, and then wind down after dinner.
Mhm.
Try to get into bed around 9, and then start the whole process again. So pretty
Amazing.
structured.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Yeah.
It's, it seems like you simplified it, but it's also, it's such a inspiring thing to hear, because even some of my days aren't structured, and I'm trying to do my best to, especially with a 15-month-old. I don't
Yeah.
think it's. I mean, he has a structure. The certain nap times and
Hmm.
whatnot, but yeah, it's difficult. It is very difficult. But once you do it, once you plan it out,
Hmm.
your life gets so much better.
Yes.
You're doing something that
Yes.
you love too, which is even more rewarding, right?
Right. 100%. And it
Mm.
definitely is a boost to our well-being, right?
Mhm.
And again, not always, easy. It's not always going to happen perfectly, and
No.
having flexibility within the context of the day is very important as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing too. When you do sleep in, you decide, oh, today I've worked a lot this week. I'm gonna sleep in, it's also important. It's also good to do that once in a while to see, I know why I get up early, because when I do sleep in, it's hard to get going. I feel like there's a sense of lack. You know, I feel like I'm out of sync with the routine that I'm in. And so it's, sometimes, when you do fail, it's a marker. It's like a perception shift. It's like, oh yeah, I that's why I value that other habit. It's because
Mhm.
I feel like crap right now, it's so
Right.
important.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Precisely. And it all comes back to that awareness, right?
Yeah,
Of what we need to be at our best.
absolutely. Well, Dr. Kate, thank you so much. Um, you
Yeah.
are a pleasure I can talk to you all day. You're a pleasure. And I feel like I can open up to you about things, which is
Yeah. And
very nice.
that's wonderful. Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. Thank you. And it's yeah, it's all about that human connection, right? Cuz and having that ability to be vulnerable and share the things that are hard, I think is so important. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I really appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, I try and do that a lot on the podcast. My goal was to be vulnerable, talk about my insecurities, with the things I'm battling. And I think people really need to hear that. They need
Mhm.
to hear, like, yeah, I'm struggling. I had a setback. I failed,
Mhm.
but I'm getting back up. And
Right.
this is what I'm in. It goes back to resilience. I'm getting back up because I, I saw the other success points. I
Mhm.
saw the other side of the thing I'm trying to break. I think that's another thing we didn't talk about too much, where when you do reach a new level, you do see the other side. Like, you see things from a different vantage point. And then when you fall back, you're like, oh, but that place that I was previously at was better. Not
Mhm.
having that drug, alcohol, or pornography, or there was something there that felt better. I
Mhm.
wasn't getting those huge spikes of dopamine. I was feeling a little bit more calmer, at peace.
Mhm.
And I think that's insanely important too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely important for perspective and all of it, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Kate, thank you so much for being here. And everyone, go check out her book on Amazon, Step Away.
Step away. The keys to resilient parenting. Exactly. That would be awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Brad.
can't wait to
Thank you
check
so
it out,
much.
because any book on parenting catches my eye at this point. So,
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
absolutely.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise. Thanks, Kate. Thanks everyone for listening to today's episode. Make sure to go to unpluganxiety.com and check out my anxiety recovery program. Everything that worked for me, I include in this program, including a releasing trauma exercise, meditations, a journal where you can plan and face the fears that you're not realizing that are hidden within the unconscious mind. Everything that you do in this program is unraveling the unconscious and all of the underlying fears and limiting beliefs that are holding you back from reaching your truer self. Go check that out. What are you waiting for?